And our first guest joins us right here in the studio, Mr. Brian Altounian, Chief Operating Officer of Platinum Studios, stock symbols PDOS. Brian, good to see you again.
Thank you, Don. Good to be here.
Well, Brian, we had initiated coverage on your company last summer, and we talked to you for about 3 or 4 months. Really glad to have you back here. Basically, you're an entertainment company. You're controlling an international library, something like 56 or 5,700 comic book characters that you adapt for all forms of media, television, movies, and so on and so forth. Give us a general overview again.
So Platinum Studios, as an entertainment company with this source material of comic books and graphic novel characters, we looked at the opportunity to get comic book material in all of forms and formats into the hands of the consumer in any way. And with the digital age now, Don, we've got people who are seeing their content when they want it, where they want it, in what kind of manner and form they want it. So people are downloading material on their computers, on their iPods, on their iPhones, on their cell phones, and so using comic books as a source material for that content is really a rich opportunity for us.
Well, it's really amazing. In the time that we've been following the company, you've got some pretty high-profile projects rolling right now with some pretty A-list participants. Can you give us a little bit of background?
Yeah, sure. We started out as and just to give a little bit of history, we started as a company that was amassing a very large library of material, and over the last year or two, we've actually moved into the exploitation phase. And when I say that, we actually have taken our properties and licensed it in some cases to studios directly. In some cases, we're producing content ourselves. So to talk about the A-list talent, we have a couple of projects with DreamWorks right now. Our pet project, the first book that we actually ever produced, is a book called Cowboys and Aliens. And Cowboys and Aliens, as a feature film project with DreamWorks, has Steven Spielberg attached as executive producer, Ron Howard and Brian Grazer attached, Kurtzman and Orsi, the folks who produced Eagle Eye and Transformers, are the producing team. The folks who wrote the script for Iron Man wrote the script for Cowboys and Aliens. Robert Downey Jr. is attached. It really does become sort of an A-list, an A-list roster of folks attached to Cowboys and Aliens. And that's one of 2 projects we have at DreamWorks. We have a second project there called Atlantis Rising, and the director attached is Len Wiseman, who directed the Underworld series and The Last Die Hard. So on the studio side, and by the way, those are 2 projects with that studio. We have a project with Disney, we have a project with Sony. We've taken our material and licensed our comic book properties to the studios for production, using them as the, as the big gorilla and as the distribution outlet. We've also have developed and produced now. We've stepped into a production space on our own with co-production partners, and actually we brought in financing to produce our own films as well. So not only we have projects with the A-list talent, but we are also bringing folks in and producing films on our own as well.
Now, you might want to remember this face and this name, Brian Altounian, because probably, 2 or 3 years from now, you're going to be one of the guys where they get up to accept an Oscar. It's like 12 of you, and only one gets to speak, and you'll be standing in the back going, yeah, I got one too.
Right. I'll say, hey, Don.
The company's Platinum Studios, PDOS, the stock symbol. You can call us from anywhere in the world, 888-259-4449 for free information in the mail. Now, we had you on the program a couple, 3 weeks ago. It was like 2 days after Mardi Gras. You were in New Orleans.
That's right.
Principal photography had begun on your feature film Dead of Night. Tell us about that experience.
Right, and I was actually standing in front of the set. I don't think it was dressed at the time, but that was a crucial scene in the middle of the movie. Dead of Night is a project we're doing with Hyde Park Entertainment. They're an international sales company, and we have Brandon Routh, who starred as the Last Superman, and Anita Bream, who is in Journey to the Center of the Earth, as our leads. Tay Diggs has joined. We're actually going to be announcing, actually should be today, a number of familiar faces that have come on board. And it's a story, it's actually, I will say this about, just to be clear, when people think comic books, initially they think Iron Man, Batman, Aquaman, Spider-Man. Really, Platinum Studios' library consists of characters that span all genres. So while we do have some superheroes, our idea is depth of character, depth of story, and so Dead of Night is a story based on an Italian comic about a private eye, if you will, who's in the world of the undead, so zombies and vampires, and but it's really about the character Dylan Dog, and again, a very popular character in Italy and very popular overseas. And so our goal as a company is to create franchise pictures based on really strong characters and really strong storylines, and Dead of Night, based on the comic character Dylan Dog, is the first project that we're producing. We hope it's the first in a line of many for that for that franchise.
Well, it's interesting because so many things that have become phenomenons in America, which is the largest entertainment market in the world, have had their origins in Europe and other parts of the country. So that's a tried and true formula, so to speak.
Absolutely. And you know, being in the entertainment industry, as you've been talking about the economy and what's happening in the economy, the other thing that's interesting to keep in mind, we've always talked about entertainment industry being fairly recession-proof, but January and February of this year, we saw record box office performance. You see video game sales skyrocketing. So, you know, it really is about, you know, getting it's still the cheapest form of entertainment for a family is to go out and be entertained, whether they're watching TV or they're going to the movies or they're playing video games. And so having, you know, again, a breadth of characters and a breadth of a library that can entertain and bring new elements to an American audience is our #1 goal. But with a global perspective, the idea is to go beyond the U.S. borders and hopefully have a success.
Well, and I've always said that, because where else can you go and occupy yourself for 2 hours and be entertained for about $9 or $10?
That's
You're
right.
absolutely right. Comic book characters in Hollywood, especially in the last several years, have really become like a hand in the glove, haven't they?
Absolutely. And believe it or not, if you go back 50 years, comic book properties are still the #1 or #2 source of material as far as box office success is concerned. Okay. We had our founder, Scott Rosenberg, found the Men in Black comic book. And a lot of people didn't know that that was a comic book.
Right.
But it turned out to be a billion-dollar franchise for Sony. And again, the key is comic book material's amazing franchise capability. So Dark Knight, which has now surpassed $1 billion in worldwide box office, that's the 7th Batman movie that we've had out there. So Iron Man 2 is going into production this year. Spider-Man has had obviously a lot of success as a franchise. So yeah, comic book material is a source of Hollywood, great Hollywood box office blockbusters. That's a mouthful. Really, it's a phenomenal source, and we hope to ride right on the coattails of that.
Now, the first time we had you on MoneyTv last summer, we did something kind of neat. We watched the countdown of the launch of a website that you folks own, Wowio.com. How are things going with Wowio?
It's good. It's interesting because, as we're seeing this, really it's the digital age and the digital delivery of content. We're seeing newspaper sales and print sales fall. Wowio gives us an opportunity to participate in the distribution of print material now globally, again, via the internet. So Wowio, for us, was an opportunity for us to distribute our own comic books, but really we've become a source of delivery for independent comic publishers all over the world. And beyond just the comic book area, we basically allow folks to download textbooks and old reading material, classics, you name it, you can find a book that you can download on Wowio for free in many cases or very inexpensively.
Now, we talked about the economy, and we talked about that entertainment business is kind of recession-proof, at least at the box office. How about on the other end, on your side? Is it more difficult to attract financing for projects in this kind of economy?
Yeah, I think that it definitely has an impact. I will say this, though, we were able to close financing on this Dead of Night project. We just closed it in February in a very tough market. So I think, first of all, it speaks to our tenacity. It speaks to who we are and what we're up to in this space. But I also think that with the right mix of people involved in the project and also really what the global perspective looks like, ancillary markets, getting investment dollars to this space can be done if you create an opportunity for a win-win across the board. Financiers, at the end of the day, banks have to lend money, Don, as you know. They have to put that money to work, and they're looking at where they're mitigating their downside risk. They look at how they're going to, how they're going to get some kind of return, and that's what they're looking at the entertainment industry. Still, with a waterfall of ancillary revenues coming in the door, it's still, believe it or not, a better bet than almost any other industry.
Well, and we joked about this on previous programs. When you start aligning yourself with names like Sony and DreamWorks, you get a better table at the Ivy, but you must also get your phone calls returned by people who are in the financing business.
Without a doubt. And when we can step up and say that we actually brought financing for our own independently produced feature film project, it absolutely opens doors. It gets phone calls returned. People know that we're in this to stay, and we're in this to win.
It's really exciting. Now, for people watching you, and we've followed your company now for about 8 or 9 months. It's been an exciting road during that period of time. For people who are seeing you for the first time, and for those who have been watching you, why is it a good time right now, March going into April, for people to take a closer look at this company?
You know, it's a great question, and I really think, you know, especially as people are looking at their own portfolios dropping, where they're going to put their discretionary income, where they're going to look at where there's a value opportunity. I think, you know, for me, it's always go to what you know, go to what you enjoy, go to what you feel you can get your hands around. Entertainment industry, it's a global experience. People want to go, and it's beyond escapism. It's about, you know, touching and being touched by stories and storylines and you know, cultures around the world. Okay. Comic books as material for, again, feature films and television and video games and in the digital world. It's something that everybody gets because everybody sits in front of the television. Everybody goes to the movies. And so as a value opportunity, I think, and again, all CEOs will tell you that their companies are undervalued on the market. I think in this particular space, especially at this particular time, you know, the golden age of Hollywood was born out of the Great Depression. Right now, for the next 3 or 4 years, we are perfectly poised to really take advantage of market conditions, and I think we're going to see tremendous upside over the next couple of years, especially as these movies not only go into production but come out in the theater. People will know the name Platinum Studios over the next 2 to 3 years.
Exciting. And Platinum Studios, PDOS, the stock symbol. Brian, we're going to reinitiate coverage of the company. We'll be watching you very closely over the next 4 or 5 months. Thanks for joining us once again.
Thank you, Don.